Hello, I'm Rand Foxwillow. This is going to be a tutorial on how to make a embroidery effect on a logo or image at all in Photoshop. I'm going to be using CS4, but this will definitely work in any version of Photoshop. Now, this is right here. I have my website up with my portfolio. Now, I had this way of making logos look in my portfolio, and I think that's pretty standard. Dark edges, textured. But I wanted something a little more unique for the front of my site, so I came up with this technique for making logos look like they've been embroidered. Now, some of these are better than others. I've only done these 4, and then I did a 5th one before because I made a tutorial for this, and then that tutorial failed to save correctly, so I'm going to be redoing the same logo again. And that will be this logo right here is the one I'm going to be redoing and showing you how to make. I got a couple examples here. Blue Jays logo, got a Philly Flyers logo, and a Buffalo Sabres, old Buffalo Sabres logo. Just to show a couple different things that are done, and I'm going to try and incorporate all of them in this. Like the Flyers logo has, if you pay close attention, I mean, you'll see that this is stitched on its own. This is stitched to here. Then this is a separate stitch to here. That kind of thing. On the Sabres logo, the white area is all stitched in the middle, and then there is this thin white outline. So that's a second area of stitching. And on the Blue Jays logo, instead of doing an outline on this blue area, or instead of just doing the blue area, what they did was add some depth and dynamic to it by doing several different areas together like that to make the 3 stripes. So we're going to do something similar with this once I go into Photoshop and start showing how to do it. We're going to have the outline done on the orange. I'm going to show you how to do that a little more dynamic here on the fur on the side of the face, and then the outline is going to be the purple and also on the orange, or this reddish orange. Okay, so we'll go into Photoshop here, and this is another version of that logo. And what I'm going to do is we're going to kill it, just to give you an idea of what capability you should have by the time this tutorial's over. Really, this should be doable by anyone. I'm going to try to make it very clear. However, this will be a little bit on the intensive side. It will take at least an hour probably for you to make one. Just try doing something small first. First off, this is going to be very intensive on using work paths. If you haven't done that before, that's right here. It's this menu. What these do is give us the capability to make a shape with the pen tool and then have it not apply to the appearance of the picture, but have it give us, like this little line here, and then what we can actually do is draw along that line, which is something that's important, and it's a big part of the biggest part of this entire thing is using work paths. So if you are entirely uncomfortable with that, just pay attention and hopefully you'll learn how to use them. Another thing is layer masks, and selecting areas, and also a little bit of use of the pen tool. This will just show you how to get things done a little bit. It's the logo I made for a now defunct baseball team called the Kitsoon. So I hit A and you can select a shape. I have the actual shape of it. I always hit Control-Alt-Z for going back. Again, I'm not assuming that anyone has a ton of Photoshop experience. I'm going to make this so that anyone should be able to pull this off. So I'm going to assume, though, that you didn't make the logo that you're doing, or that you're using one of your favorite team's logos or something like that. So what we're going to do is just merge it. Anything, like any logo you're going to find, we're just going to pretend it's some logo you found on Google image search. Now, the first thing we have to do is we're going to duplicate this layer, and this is going to be the backdrop of it. And what I'm going to do is make the backdrop darker. It doesn't need to be significantly darker, just darker. Okay, Now this is the actual colors. What we're going to do is come over here to the magic wand. Your tolerance, again, I'm trying to make this clear for everyone. Like if these are two similar colors, if I click magic wand, it's going to select one color for you. But if I click that, it's going to take a whole lot. And it's going to merge the red and the orange, the reddish orange and the orange together. So if I go something like 25 though, and I click the orange, I'm only going to get the orange. So then right click, layer via cut. Let's go ahead and rename this as orange. That's fine. Then we'll go to this and we will take this off and we will layer via cut. We'll rename that as red. We've only got the purple and the wheat left. We will layer via cut. We will rename that as purple, eggplant, whatever color you want to call them. All that's left should be the wheat. Alright, so now we've got that figured out. We have, nope, don't want to save that, and nope, don't want to save that. I'm going to show you how to make those in 1 second. Like I said, we're going to do each of the different techniques for this logo. Not going to wind up looking exactly like this. We're definitely going to get some variation because we're going to make the brushes that we use. So the brush won't even be exactly the same. So something that you can do yourself. What we're going to do here is, first off, we're going to separate a little further. See how that orange on this one has its own outline? We're going to do that with the orange here. And we're going to have to do it with the wheat as well. So we're going to take the orange, hold Control, and just click on the layer, and it's going to give you whatever's already drawn in. So we have that area, and then what I'm going to do is, actually we don't need to do that yet, but that is something we're going to be doing a lot of. Now, blending options, go to Inner Glow, just set it to normal, pick this color, pick something close so that you see, and then Choke is going to make it much more defined. That's probably hard to see. That should make it much clearer. Size, see, the choke is going to make it much more soft or defined. We want it very hard to find. 8 is good for my image here. You can do this at any size as long as you wind up making it look good, so it's really up to you. Okay, so the Inner Glow, I don't need anything selected right now. So the Inner Glow, there we go. Now we're going to have our actual orange, and then we have the outline for orange. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that layer though, and I can clear the layer style. I do want to keep my orange the way it was for now. So now I have this new one that has this outline on it. Now if I change the opacity up here, it changes the whole thing. See, now all it's showing us is the backdrop. See, if I delete the backdrop, it shows even less. Opacity changes everything. However, fade or fill only changes the middle. See, then we would actually be left with only the outline. That's exactly what I want. So we're going to change fill to 0, opacity to 100. Just going to make another layer and merge these two, which is going to leave us with only that layer and without it having to be an effect or something. So we're going to call that the orange outline. Then we have actual orange, bring that back into the picture. Could do the same exact thing with wheat. We're not going to though. For this tutorial, we won't. What we're going to do for this tutorial is I'm going to show you, make a new path. Right down here is how you make a new path, and then you select it. You get over here, break out your pen tool, and what we're going to do for wheat, this is something that you might want to look at a logo for a little while, figure out exactly how you want things to look, or the feel you're looking for. But as you already seen from the preview of the completed version, you know what I'm looking for here. So what I'm going to do is just draw these lines. Now if you are good with Photoshop, you kind of know what I'm doing here. If you aren't, it's going to be clear in one moment. What we're going to be doing is selecting the wheat, and we're going to use these drawn areas as selections. And then once these are selections, they're going to be very easy for us to just add or delete them from something that already exists, especially when we're talking about whole colors. That may not make the most sense at the moment, but trust me, you'll figure it out very soon. Be very clear in a moment. Now, what I've also done is I've put a work path or a guide right down the middle of my logo. If you don't know how to make a guide, go to New Guide, and you can make it. You hold Control, you can move it around, or you can use the movement tool right there. I don't need it, so I can just throw it off to the side and it's gone. Alright, so the reason I put that there though is because what I like to do is just, on a work path, because when you have snap on, it'll just snap to that path. I did not want to make a new layer, so I'm going to just copy that, delete it though. I'm going to paste it in here, copy, paste. I'm going to copy all of these, copy, paste. What I'm going to do is flip them horizontal. And now, it's not completely flawless, but that's fine. Now I have symmetrical selections. Now wheat, right here. What I'm going to want to do is divvy wheat up into 1, 2, and 3 different sections. So I'm going to do that. Since I'm on this work path, I'm going to select those two and make selection. New selection. Okay, so that's a selection here. What I'm going to do is, I'm already on wheat, so I'm going to click on this. First you have to click on a selection tool, so one of these two right here, either the lasso or just the box is fine, and layer via cut. That just chopped it off of this wheat and added it to this wheat. Now I'm going to call it wheat 1. Now what I'm going to do is make selection out of this up here. I'm going to grab once again this box. I'm on normal wheat. I'm going to layer via cut. What I'm going to get is wheat 3. As you can see, wheat 2 is the middle. Well, let me rename it as wheat 2. So wheat 1, the bottom, wheat 2, the middle, wheat 3, the top. Pretty simple. No more need for those paths. These can be deleted. So we've got our orange broken up into the sections it's going to be done in. We've got orange and orange outline. You don't need to change the color like I did. I just did that so it's very clear. Wheat, same basic principle. Now, one thing to note is the reason I have this backdrop here. If you remove the backdrop, as we break these up into colors, we're going to get very fine slivers that show up of the background. So with the backdrop in, those pretty much don't show up, and when they do, it's just this little dark line, which actually I did on purpose because I kind of feel like a darker line is going to feel like it belongs there further on along once the logo's almost done. So we've got to this point, and now we're at the point where we can start actually embroidering this logo. We've got each color differentiated, and once you sit and plan out what kind of different colors you want and how you want the colors broken up, you can move on. This is a pretty simple logo, so we're able to move on relatively quickly here. Now, the next thing to do is to make our brush. So I want you to go to 20 by 300 and make a new layer. It should be relatively thin. And just fill it in with black. Deselect. Now I could just use Control D, but I do try to use the toolbar so make it very clear what I'm doing. And what we're going to do actually is just take some chunks out of it. That should be pretty good. We're going to save this as a preset. Go to Edit, Define Brush Preset. We're going to save it as, it doesn't really matter what we save it as, but we'll save it as Tutorial 2. because I probably have several others. I have a lot of these up. Okay, so we have our brush. This is going to be what all of our stitching is designed by. So now we're going to go back into our logo and go to paths. Now I have most of these paths already taken care of. I'm going to show you how to do them or why to do them, but the actual sitting and watching me click little piece by little piece, I'm not gonna include that. I'm going to be thorough, but I'm not going to take 4 hours with this. So like large up here is just a bunch of straight lines. What that's going to be used for is the middle of this orange, but I've used that same exact path for several logos. But you click down here and you can create a new path, and this is for those of you who are not familiar with paths. Start paying attention here. Bust out the pen tool. Make sure it's on path in the middle up here. It should be whenever you're in the path menu. It pretty much should wind up going there for you. Just make some lines. They don't need to be perfect. Go ahead and hit A so you select it. Control C, Control V. Just hit your arrow keys, move it. Then if you drag down when you have this tool selected, you can just select more than one thing. C, V, move them. You're getting the picture. Basically, you do that a bunch and you wind up with these. Some of this is going to go where I don't need it, but that's perfectly fine. What we're going to do is check out what first off, I'll get rid of that so you don't see it for a moment. Whenever you click on a layer path, it stays highlighted even if you go and start clicking on different layers. This is a layer path, work path. This is because your work path is something that you apply to your layers. So it's relevant to always be highlighted because no matter what layer you're clicking on, it's going to be that path. So what you're going to have to do is click off of paths entirely anytime something's highlighted and you don't intend to be using it right away. So now if we hit Control and click on this, it's going to show you everything that's colored in for that layer. So right now orange goes to there. Now we have 2 different colors for orange. So what I want to do is break that up. So I'm going to hit Control Shift on the orange outline layer, and that would add it to it. But what I actually wanted was not Control Shift. I want Control Alt. As you see, in the little layer menu, you see the little pointer, and that right now it's a plus, as long as you're watching on HD, and right now it's a minus. So I want to click on that and make it a minus. And as you see, now this becomes only its particular color. Right down here is a layer mask. What we're going to do is add layer mask to this orange. Now what this is going to do is that no matter what we wind up making, it's only going to show up. It's only going to show on this layer what's in the middle of those moving lines. Going to do the same thing here. Orange outline, that's how orange outline wants to look. So we're going to apply that layer mask. Red, we want that layer mask. Purple, want that layer mask. Purple's going to give us a little bit issue later on since I've already made this logo, and I know that ahead of time, but it's not a big deal, and it's actually something that's good to come up with. It's a good problem to come to during the tutorial and then show you how to come around it. So we've got every layer mask done. Orange is here. Now I have a swatch with the designs on it, or with each color on it. Now we have this base orange, the wheat, the purple, and the reddish orange outline. Then you're going to want one darker version of each color and a lighter version of each color. The first thing you're going to do is make sure you aren't clicked on the layer mask over here on your layer menu. You're going to want to be clicked on the actual layer. You'll notice that on the other side here, your color swatch will change. When you're on your layer mask, it'll be mostly black or white, and when you're in here, it's going to be what you're actually paying attention to. So make sure you're on the right thing, and then we're going to change the color to the dark, because the first thing we're going to cover in is the middle of this. Now, even though it looks like we're going to paint all over the place, we won't be. So first thing, now we have to set up our brush. The brush we just made is right here. So I'm going to open that up. You see it right there. Now the only things we're going to change are shape dynamics and scattering. Make sure these are all pretty damn close to this. Okay, now your shape dynamic, you can change shape, size. Size can be changed up to 20 or so. Angle direction, you definitely want angle jitter on direction. Angle, you probably want it up to about 3. 4 is kind of pushing it. 3 is fine. roundness and roundness fade, this stuff isn't that important. This is just what I have it set up right now. But the most important part is add a little bit of size jitter, add a little bit of angle jitter, and make sure control is on direction. That's the most absolute one. Scatter, both axes, you definitely want to add a little more scatter. 24 is pretty good. Count, you're going to want to thicken it up a little bit. Now this is only going to be when it's really tight. When it's larger, it's not going to have as much showing up, so it's not as big of a deal. Count and jitter is fine. Add a bunch of that, and you should be pretty good. Now this is going to be your thread texture. It's going to be used for both the thin spots and the big spots on this logo. This is the only brush you need for either. So what we're going to do, we have our brush defined. Now we can make sure we click on our area. We already have the correct layer. So we're just going to apply this. Go to brush tip shape, and then we can pick the spacing. So dynamics and scattering are where you define the variables to change what the brush looks like. Shape is going to be where we change how wide it is. You can't tell because this is too big. Like right now it's at 140, here's at 2500. But once you get small enough so that you actually can see it on the screen, you'll see that when you make it smaller, that's how wide your brush will be. So for that big area, we do want something probably about 450 or so. And then spacing, I don't want it to be that close. As you can see, you can start bringing it further apart. And I want to apply that. Now we have the dark has been applied to our main area. I'm going to now change the spacing and the size a little bit. And we're going to just apply the orange back to it. And then we're going to put in a little bit of light. That's a whole lot of light. Okay, I don't want that much light. So it's definitely something that you tweak. That's better. I like that a lot more. Could take away a little bit of it, maybe by adding a little more of the normal color. There we go. I like that. That looks good. There we go. There's the inside of the logo done. Done. Completely in there right now. We're going to add effects to it later, but for now, that's good. So orange is done, and as you can see, if you can see right here, if we disable that layer mask, that's what orange looks like. This is why the layer masks and our selection areas are going to be very important for this tutorial. The next part is going to be doing the orange outline. Here's the orange outline. I was going to do this during the tutorial. As you can see, you make a path, and you don't go to the points here. Let's go to your selection tool, convert point tool, and then you can see what these lines look like. And you can click and move them. Now the reason why I want you to not go to the corners, I can move some of this a little. The reason you're not going to the corners exactly is because it causes problems. If you go all the way to the corners, the brush does not get anything up here, anything here, or this corner or this corner. I'll show you by making a wrong one, and then you'll understand exactly why I made it like that. So let's say we're going to make this go from here to here to here. Just do a quick example of why that wouldn't work. If you want to be really accurate with it and, you know, be right in the middle of the line, which would be nice but completely unnecessary. Okay, that's pretty close. Okay, so now if we're going to be applying this to orange outline, once again, make sure you're clicked in the layer and not this. I just noticed that I only had white in my color swatches over here, so I knew that I was not in the right spot. But gotta just keep an eye on it. I'll grab a color that'll be very obvious to see, so it'll be purple. And let's grab our paintbrush and let's stroke the layer. Now, one doesn't really show the problem. If we do many, Okay, many isn't showing a problem here at all, which is frustrating. Huh. Well, for the most part, it depends on what the corner is. That one looks like it might actually work okay, but I don't like the way it's turning out, to be honest. That doesn't quite look right. I'm gonna do it with the right colors and see if it just doesn't look realistic. The problem is I really want to go for realism, and that's part of the ordeal here, making sure it looks realistic. And I don't think this outline is going to wind up looking realistic if we do this for real. So we do that. And we'll go to the actual orange color. That's close to it. I'm just testing right here. And then we'll do the outline. As you can see, this is what I was trying to show. Instead of this coming out at an angle and going around, it just moves to the side right away. And once you get the actual threading in there, that's not going to look right. Which is why I did it the other way with the other path. So I'm just going to hit delete. And I'm just going to delete that path. I don't need it. This path I don't think even has anything on it. And we're going to go to orange outline. See, now this path is already set here. Now I'm going to use the paintbrush, and I'm just going to hit orange outline hard. Now this should look pretty decent. There's the dark, since I had that other color there that I don't really want there, so I made sure to hit dark heavy. Then I hit some of that. Then we'll get just a bit of the lighter color in there. There you go. Now we have the outline is done and the inside is done. Now it's a little hard to tell right now, but this does go around these corners correctly. It even goes around the corners pretty correctly around this little point. There are a couple ways to fix problems on points like this. I'm not going to go over those. You can figure them out on your own. Just because it's going to take a little, it would take a little while to show it, and it shouldn't be a big deal normally. But that's why the thread is so wide. As long as you make your curve around that corner, again, as I show you that this is a curve around this corner, not a point. As long as you do the curve correctly, if you just make your brush a little bigger, it should be able to cover it. So the orange is done. What's really going to be easy for us here is covering the wheat, which I do have this outline done already for one of them. That's wheat 3. So we're going to click on wheat 3, select the correct dark color, and then we're going to go to paths. I actually think this dark color is too dark. That is a problem I've had. Okay, so I'm going to change the color of the dark. I'm going to go to my swatch, and I'm just going to change that color. Okay, so now we're going to go to, make sure we're on wheat 3 again. Path, here. Now, I got my layer, we're there, we're stitching it. That does not cover all of wheat 3. Not by a long shot. As you can tell, we're not going far enough to the sides. So I'm going to go back one, and I'm just going to increase my diameter to, let's try 82. That put me on the wrong layer, because we're going to do that to me right now. But, as we can see, that does go basically as far as we want. So, going back one put me back on swatch instead of wheat 3, that's all. So I'm going to go back on wheat 3, and I'm going to click that. Now that's pretty fine. I'm going to go a little larger anyway. And that'll do. Then we're going to take the normal color, do the same thing, just hit the middle up. Then what I want to do is take the lighter color and just hit it up kind of lightly. Maybe a little more on that. And then I'm going to just hit the normal color one more time to try to subdue the fact that there is a lot of contrast in there. That I'm happy with. I'm happy with that. That looks fine. Little changes can be made later. This is just a once again, this is just going to be a quick tutorial, so it shouldn't be the most complicated thing in the world. I'm not really going to tweak any of this too much. Like this could be done. See, your path can go way past what you're doing because you have that layer mask on. So it's not going to look bad. Now this, as you can tell, is going to be going on wheat too. So we're going to use this path, click on the path, make sure we have the right color selected. And I can do this zoomed back out now so you can see the whole logo. And we'll just hit that up, bring out the right color, probably start bringing it down a little bit. Hit us with the light color. I don't like hitting the light color heavy, so just tap that on in there. And then bring back a little more extra. Yep, of the normal color. There we go. Do the same thing with the last little part. So we can just go ahead and delete those from path 1, and we're just going to make another path. This line here to here. Re-click so that you can draw a second path and go from there to there. Re-click it to select it. Grab your layer. Grab the right color. We're on dark. Make sure we're on wheat 1. Here we go. Painting it. Spacing come down. Painting it. There we go. That's fine. Really, you can bring the size down on this one too. The size down looks better. It would be better for this particular logo, this area. It would have been better if I had made an even larger brush, but once again, that's just something I can tweak later on. It's not something that needed to go into this tutorial just to show people how to do this. Or instead of just making one path on these, because this spot right here does look better. As you can see, I prefer the effect down here on 1. Wheat 1 looks better. Wheat 2 looks okay. Wheat 3 is pretty wide looking stitching. But this is just to show you how to get it done. You can definitely make sure that your threads look thinner like they do in the middle. They'll look better when they're thinner. So we have the wheats done. We have the oranges done. And the purples really don't take that long either. Now this is going to show another different technique, which is everything else we've pretty much done its own separate path for. The purple, we have all the purple on one path, and as you can imagine, if you know Photoshop, if I was to just click on this, on purple, we're on purple, okay, so if I just click on this, what we're going to get is everything's just going to paint at once. Everything's going to overlap each other. It's never going to look good. But purple does have that layer mask already set up. So what I am going to do is just this area here. I'm only going to do these thin spots is all I want to do. So I've already made these paths for the eyes, the thin spots. As you can see, the only part that I've been intricate with is the part that touches other purple. This part I made sure is accurate. This part is up here is good. I like these little curves near the ears. And for the whiskers, you see big boxes, but the purple is the only thing that matters here. So what we're going to do is select and hold Shift to select 2 things at once. Make a selection, new selection. So now I have a selection taken for purple, and I'm only going to draw within that selection. So what I'm going to do is a similar thing here, is select, and then hold Shift and select. Make sure you have your path selection tool, which you get by hitting A. Now if those two are selected, those are going to be the only two paths that you draw on. And with this selection here, those are going to be the only two paths we draw on, and they're only going to draw within this selection. So now, what we're going to do is use our dark. Apply it, and it's painted right there, taken care of. Applied twice. Then we put some of the normal color back on, put the light on at a very little bit, and we're set. There's the stitching done for the middle of that. Now I'm going to want to do the whiskers. Well, I already have a path here. I drew it. You shouldn't have down how to draw the path now. So now I'm just going to make selection there. New selection. Go back to purple. As you see, I have things here waiting for purple. I'm already selected on purple as a path, so I'm going to draw on it now. I'm going to use the dark, and it's only going where I want it to. Add a little bit of the normal color. Then we're going to add just a touch of the lightest color. And now the whiskers are stitched. So the whiskers are stitched, the middle is stitched. Now all we have left is the outside, which really shouldn't cause us any issues. So we're going to do the nose first. But now what I want to do is make sure I don't go in the whiskers and make sure that I don't go in the middle lines. So I'm going to do is select these all with the pen tool, make selection, new selection. Now that's all selected. Now that's where I don't want to go. So what I'm going to do is select the inverse. Now you can't tell from this, but now you can tell that we've selected the whole thing, and these are actually the areas that are unselected. And since there is that layer mask on purple, we're only going to paint within purple. We'll hit the eyes too, but I don't think we'll get into the eyes really. So I did have shapes on there for the eyes. I could additionally subtract those, and I'll show you how you can do that as well, just to make sure we don't hit the eyes. Okay, so now we hit A and we select with Shift both of these and make selection. The first thing that shows up, subtract from selection. Go ahead and take that off. Now we're not going to hit the eyes. And well, it looks like there's a little sliver that, there we go. So we won't hit the eyes, and we won't hit anything but the outline. So we hit purple. The first thing I want to do is I want to do this nose. So I'm going to grab the black, well, the dark purple, and we're going to paint the nose. Nose painted. Grab the normal purple. Grab the lightest. And then grab the normal again. Change the size a bit. There we go. Purple nose done. Hit A, and what we're going to do is just the outskirts now. Same thing. Make sure we're selected back on our paintbrush, and we're going to paint along the outskirts. Now I can see it's not going quite far enough, so what I'm going to do is go back twice, space it, and I want to increase diameter to something like 55. Let's try 55. Oops, I went back one, and again that put me right back on the wrong path. So hit A, I'll hit this again, hit my paint, and then now apply it. Now that looks like it is going pretty much everywhere I need it to go. Could be a little bit larger, so I'm going to go to 66 and apply it a couple more times. So there we go. we have it. The black is applied. Dark, dark purple. And then we're going to hit with the normal purple, and then we'll hit with the light purple. The light purple I want to bring a little smaller. I definitely want to space it out more than 490. 907 sounds good. There we go. And I will hit it with a couple taps of the original. There we go. Now the outside is done. Now, as you can see, the very tips of the ears up here, I didn't get very well. They're good enough. You can adjust that, of course. You can change the area where the path is to make sure you get them. The main thing I'm focusing on here is the fact that this looks realistic. This looks like it is stitched correctly as we go around each curve. I'm definitely, you can for sure use more colors for your stitching too. This is just using the bare minimum of 3 just to show you the general effects. And then the last thing to do is the eyes alone. So we're just going to select the eyes, make selection, new selection. So now only the eyes are selected, and we'll go to purple. And I've already tested this, so I know that I want to select both of these, and I already know I want like 32 to be my width. Something I've done a couple times was this one, so go back one. It looked like I made those darker than I really needed to. Then we'll hit up the lightest, and go back with some of the normal color. There we go. The outside is really simple. That's already taken care of practically. Go to the red. Paths on the red. I have a path for red. Select, deselect, and all we have to do is hit red up. Now this is really simple. I didn't cover the tips of these very well. We can go ahead and just increase the size to get to the tips a little bit better. It's fine. Again, red, I feel like that dark is a little too dark on this, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. There's the light. I'm definitely going to want to bring the normal red back in. Size is way too much. So there's the red on the outskirts. It looks fine. Okay, so we're pretty much done here. Most of the difficult work has already been taken care of. You're done. You have only the final touch-ups, and the final touch-ups is what really makes these they pop. They pop the rest of the way. They make it actually look realistic. First thing I like to do is the most obvious area, orange outline. You're going to go to blending options, right click on the actual layer itself in the layer menu, blending options, orange outline. You're going to use inner shadow and inner glow. Inner shadows for everything are going to have no distance on them. Inner glows, you're going to want them coming from center, not from the edge. So change this. Now it depends on what color you're using, but I prefer color dodge and color burn, but you just have to change things. Color dodge, I definitely don't want it yellow, I want it white, and we want it to come down. The smaller you make this, the bigger the effect is. The larger, the less effect. See, like if we make the size goes bigger, that starts going away. I want something like this. Looks good to me. I definitely don't want it that bright though. So something like 20 looks fine. Inner shadow, I'm liking liking like 46 on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that layer style and paste it on the orange. Now that does not look right at all. It's because with the small piping it looks much better than the huge areas. So the inner glow has to go. And instead of inner glow, we're going to use bevel and emboss. Just give it a ton of size, give it a ton of soften. I'm not going to focus too hard on this. Just going to make it the way I know I would and minimize the effects. So that gives it a little more pop. As you can see, flat really gives it some more dynamic. So now the orange area is pretty much done. The problem we're going to come across here is that I'm going to want this area of the purple to look similar to that thin orange, but then there's a lot of bigger areas. So what we're going to do, it's very easy. We've already got this part. Make a selection. So we have a selection already of the purple area we want gone. So we're going to be on purple, have a selection tool selected, and just layer via cut. Now that's going to look ugly for now. What we're going to do is just apply the same layer mask to it, and we're all set. No problems. So what we're going to do is take the orange outline, copy the layer style of that orange outline. Layer 6 is the thin purple. And we're going to just paste that layer style right in here. What we're going to do is, now for colors, you change each color a little bit. I want the shadow to actually be slightly larger. And there we go. That's my purple. I'm going to apply the same, copy this layer style. I'm going to apply that to the big purple. And what that's going to do is make it very bright. Don't want it that bright, so we're going to have to increase the size of the shadow, which makes the glow in the middle a little less prominent. That looks okay. And I'm happy with how that looks in general. There's some changes I would definitely make, but for this looks fine. And we're going to, as you can see, since these are two different layers, right here, there's this actually nice spot where it just, up here in the corners too, where it looks like it's two different threads overlapping each other. We're going to look for that effect, and we're gonna make it by going to the burn tool, and we're going to take 12 with a low exposure, shadows because this is dark, and we're going to go on purple. We're just going to make the same thing happen. Just going to make the same thing happen there, and we're going to do it on this eye up here too, like the thread overlapped over itself or something. Then we're going to make this a little more defined as 3, and go right along this line. Go right along this line, right along here, and right along here. Now that could be done a little more precise than me just slapping it together there, but I like the effect. I think it serves its purpose well enough. That covers us on everything. Everything's done besides the orange outline being copy layer style and just slapped on the red. Blending options. For the red, looks kind of ridiculous, so I'd want to get rid of color burn and just make it multiply. And inner glow can be screen instead. Change those settings to your will. Whatever you think the settings should be, make them. I mean, this is just showing you basically how to get that thread look in the first place. So orange, copy the layer style from orange and put it on wheat. Now you're going to notice it didn't really do anything. because it's a different color. It doesn't really change the effects as much. What you're going to want is linear burn for the inner shadow, and instead of color dodge, we're just going to want a screen, and we're just going to want to multiply. It's just going to look a lot simpler. Now screening on already light color isn't going to do that much. See, 100% doesn't even change it that much. So you're going to need a lot. The multiply is going to be the one that's prominent. You're not going to want that to be too prominent though. So you're going to take the bevel and gloss. That's pretty solid. Like I said, you can change this stuff on your own. The inner shadow I do think should be a little larger. Possibly give it a little more choke and then make it smaller. Actually, that looks good. Then what we're going to do is copy layer style from one to the next to the next. And that tells me that that line is way too fuzzy looking. But for this, you know what, I will change it. I will change it because it's going to annoy me. I will change it. Linear burn, color burn, it's less prominent. Okay, that looks a little better. Going to cause much less headache. Okay, so we have that done. That everything's done now. Everything's taken care of. What we're going to do here is filter noise. You're going to add some noise, especially to the wheat, because that was already a little, those lines we used were a little too large on that. Add lines to the wheat, add noise to the purple, add noise, make it like 1.5. It's really small. Don't add a ton of noise. It doesn't matter. I would say use the monochrome noise. Don't add extra colors in that you don't need. That's really up to you. What that does is just makes us look a little more legitimate when you're in close. It's up to you. Don't have to do it. All we have left here then is to connect this logo to his background. What we're going to do for that is new 150. Just going to show you how to make another brush real quick. Going to go here to line tool. We want it to be 10 pixels up here. Make sure we have black selected and just go from 1 to pretty close to center to the top. That's it. Merge these two. Select them both, merge them, and we break out the eraser the same way we did before. Just chop at it. And edit, define brush preset. We will say it's outside stitch. Okay, so we have an outside stitch there. Now what we're going to do is go back to our original logo, which is looking pretty good. We're going to go, I have this outline. Now this one, you can go straight to the corners on. Do an outline around your logo in a similar color as the fabric it's on. So what I'm going to do is go down here. I'm going to make myself a new layer. I'm going to let it go behind backdrop. And I have this new brush right here. This is our new brush. That's not how we want it to look at all though. So what we're going to do is get rid of size jitter, get rid of scatter, kill count to 1, actually turn scattering off entirely. Size jitter can be at like 2 maybe. Angle jitter, direction, there you go. Brush tip shape, spacing, make sure these just look like V's. Again, make sure shape dynamic is set on direction. Brush tip shape, we want this to be something really small. You will probably have to redo it several times. You make your outline, and then when you start painting this along the outskirts of it, you're going to come to some issues. You know, you may overlap your logo and look bad. You may be too far from the logo, so it will take some testing. What I'm doing is drawing right now with black. I don't want to do that. Okay, what I want is purple. Draw with purple, make a couple lines. Okay, now as you see, there's this slight purple outline going on around the logo. I'm going to take that layer, and what I'm going to do is sharpen it quite a bit. You can see it's stitched on, but it doesn't quite look right. So what we're going to do is just add a drop shadow to it, no distance, give it some spread. I would take one off and lower the opacity. That looks good. Now, still too bright. What we're going to do is add a color. I mean, you can do it your own way, but I'm just going to add a color and play with this myself until I think a little darker than that. Okay, yeah, that looks good. I'd say that looks solid. And there you have it. Kill your swatch, and you have a stitched embroidered effect on a logo. Now, some of this does look too much. Some of it does just flat out have too much going on. There's a little too much contrast and stuff in some areas, well, depending on what kind of embroidery you're talking about. But if you think, oh well, the purple doesn't look right, make sure you select everything that's purple, make a new layer, move it above the purple, bust your swatch back out. Let's grab the actual purple color and just fill it in. Now, deselect. We've basically negated all of our work on that. But if we set it as an overlay and change the opacity, what we do is we dumb down the effects of the purple. So like that to like this. So you can kind of tweak things a little bit. I'm going to try doing something similar with the wheat. Hit Control and Shift to add extras. So then I have every area of wheat. Gonna select the right wheat color. I'm gonna fill that in. Now if I overlay it, it's a little bright for overlay, so let's try something like soft light. Hard light even? No, we're definitely gonna want to go soft light. And it'll just minimize a little bit of the effect. Actually, I don't mind using multiply. It seems like it kind of does a pretty good job making it more tan and less white. I'm okay with that. I like the effect that comes out too. Again, I just had still a slightly too much. Down here it looks good to me. This is just a little too blotchy, but it's just personal preference, and you could tweak things. I'm gonna go ahead and say, well, maybe this red could use some help. Doing way more than I should be right now, seeing as this is just a tutorial. I'm trying to not take too long, which is stupid of me, but there we go. Select, deselect, and as you can see, you can really start to tweak the effect of if you have a color or something where you just made too much of an extreme effect, you can definitely cover it up or adjust your colors with an overlay or a soft light, or depending on what kind of filter you put over the top of that layer. So as you can see, yeah, labeling the layers was helpful because there are a lot of different layers. What did I just do? I must have painted in something. What? Okay. Whatever I did, I undid it. So as you can see, there's a lot of layers that got pretty adjusted. Made a couple tweaks to things. Tweaked the purple some. It's a lot brighter if we don't. We can kill that swatch. Looks like it's stitched on and everything. So this is a tutorial to show you just a base quick way on how to make a logo look like it is stitched and Embroidered. So go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to have, like I said, my website will have more tutorials and downloads and such in the future. If you have any graphical needs for a logo or identity brand, go ahead and hit me up for that. But yeah, this is the last version of this logo I came up with, and for this tutorial, I think the old one might look a little better. Practice apparently doesn't make perfect with the same logo, but that's okay. Go ahead and use this technique yourself and see what kind of effects you have. And the logos you come up with, I would actually like to see what kind of effects people have. So you can go ahead and send them to me or link them to me at any time. Thank you, and I hope everyone has a great day.